You know, we're always told the future is coming. But what if it's already here? What if it's showing up in all these different pieces so fast that we barely have time to see how they're all connected? Well, today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're connecting the dots between a brand new mystery AI, a wild breakthrough in how machines learn, robots you can literally buy online right now, and the massive global fight for the hardware that makes it all tick.
And that brings us to the big question for this whole explainer. What if these aren't just random, separate news stories? What if this is all one single story and it's picking up speed? Let's find out. And we're going to start with a mystery that has the entire AI world talking.
So our story kicks off with something that just appeared. Out of nowhere, an insanely powerful AI model just popped up online. No press release, no big announcement, and it's already doing things that honestly felt like science fiction just a few months ago.
And its name is Nano Banana. Yeah, Nano Banana. It just materialized on this platform called Ella Marina, which is basically a leaderboard where AI models fight it out anonymously. But here's the crazy part. Nobody is claiming it. Not OpenAI, not Anthropic, no one. It just exists.
And what it can do is just staggering. We're talking photorealistic images from a single sentence. You can give it a simple command like, change the background to a rainy street, and bam, it does it. But maybe the most important thing is it can keep a character perfectly consistent across a bunch of different images, which, trust me, is a huge headache for even the best models out there. This thing is a massive leap forward.
So, who's behind it? Well, the leading theory is that this is a secret project from Google. The image quality just has their fingerprints all over it, and as the community has pointed out, Google has a long history of using fruit names for their secret projects. If this really is Google, they're about to make the AI race a whole lot more interesting. But a model this good doesn't just happen. It needs a totally new way of learning.
And that brings us to the engine that's driving all this crazy progress. A fundamental breakthrough is just published that completely changes how AI learns, moving it away from simple brute force to something that looks a lot more like, well, thinking.
To really get how big of a deal this is, let's just quickly touch on the old way, which is called reinforcement learning. Imagine just giving an AI a simple score, like points in a video game, and then making it try something hundreds of thousands of times until it finally accidentally figures out the right way to do it. It works, for sure, but it's incredibly slow and inefficient.
But now, researchers from UC Berkeley, Stanford, and Databricks have a new technique called GEPA, and it completely changes the game. See, instead of just learning from a simple score, the AI learns from its own thought process. It literally reads its own error logs, in plain English, to figure out what it did wrong. It's the difference between being told you failed and actually understanding why you failed.
So how does this actually work? Well, it boils down to three main steps. First, it kind of evolves different sets of instructions to see what works best. Second, and this is the absolute key, it uses natural language to reflect on its own mistakes. And third, instead of relying on one simple score, it uses multiple expert perspectives to judge the final outcome. It's just smarter.
And the result of all this self-reflection? Well, get this. This new method lets an AI get to the same level of skill with up to 35 times fewer attempts. Just think about that. Not 35% better, 35 times more efficient. That completely changes the speed and the cost of building new AI. And here's what that looks like in the real world. A complex task that used to take a full 24 hours of really expensive computer time, it can now be done in just 3 hours. That is a massive, massive cost reduction. And it's exactly this kind of breakthrough that makes a mystery model like Nano Banana even possible. But okay, software that can think for itself is only half the story. What happens when you give it a body?
Which brings us to our next piece of the puzzle. The world of software is now crashing into the physical world. Humanoid robots are officially no longer just experiments in a lab, they are now an actual consumer product.
A Chinese company called AiZhiBot has started selling its humanoid robots directly to the public on websites like JD.com. And I want to be clear, this isn't some prototype or a research model. This is a product you can literally add to your cart and buy today.
Let's just look at the specs for one of their models, the Yuanzheng A2. It stands about 5.5 feet tall, weighs around 140 pounds, and it can walk around for about 2 hours on a single charge. These aren't concepts from some sci-fi movie, these are the product details on a sales page. The future is literally for sale.
So what about the price? You're probably thinking, it's gotta be astronomical, right? Well, the starting price for their Lingxi X2 model is just 98,000 yuan, which is about 18,900 US dollars,
We are now officially living in an age where you can buy a humanoid robot for the price of a mid-range car.
So we have AI that's getting smarter, faster, and we have physical robots that are becoming affordable. This all leads us to the final, and maybe the most important piece of this whole story: the global, high-stakes war to control the one single resource that makes all of this possible.
You see, the semiconductor chips that power these AIs and these robots, they're not just computer parts anymore. They are core strategic assets. They are as critical to a country's power in this century as oil was in the last one. And governments are finally starting to act like it. And this battle is heating up fast. According to recent reports, the Trump administration is now thinking about a move that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago: taking a direct 10% ownership stake in the American chip giant Intel. We're talking about effectively nationalizing part of the industry.
So how would they even do that? Well, the plan would be to convert almost $11 billion in subsidies from the CHIPS Act directly into government stock. So this isn't a handout anymore. This is the government buying a seat at the table to make sure it controls a critical piece of the future.
And this isn't just happening in the US. This race is global. At the exact same time, the Japanese firm SoftBank just dropped $2 billion into Intel as well. We are watching an international gold rush to secure the hardware that is going to define the rest of our lives.
So let's just pull all these threads together for a second. In the span of just a few weeks, a mysterious, wildly powerful new AI just appears. We then find out about a new training method that makes developing AI 35 times more efficient. Humanoid robots suddenly go on sale for the price of a car. And behind all of it, global powers are scrambling for control of the very chips that make it all run.
When you connect all those dots, you get a really clear picture of a future that is accelerating at an incredible speed. And it raises one final, absolutely crucial question. With software that can actually reflect, hardware that can walk among us, and entire nations battling to control its very foundation, what do you think happens next?